Hello and welcome to the video. In this video we're talking about lactose intolerance. First of all, let me put your mind at ease. Lactose intolerance isn't fatal. However, some of the symptoms caused in lactose intolerance, if manifested in their most severe form and if totally mismanaged by us the owners, could go on to lead us further complications. Generally speaking, in and of itself, it's not fatal. It's different to milk protein intolerance, which specifically relates to the protein in cow's milk, and again it's different to a milk and dairy allergy, which relates to the dog's immune system rather than its digestive system. Lactose is the primary sugar in all mammalian milk. Puppies are able to break this down into two separate sugars and distribute that around the body as a form of energy. It turns out that as puppies go through the weaning process, the vast majority of their bodies turn off the ability to make lactase, which is the enzyme required to break down lactose, which inevitably turns the vast majority of dogs into being lactose intolerant. So how does it work? Well, the dog consumes something that contains lactose, moves into the gut would then secrete the lactase enzyme, which would break down the lactose. After 5 to 6 weeks, that ability stops, so now that enzyme is no longer secreted. What that means is the lactose then sits in the gut and is sort of fermented by the bacteria in the gut. That fermentation process leads to an excess of gas buildup, which leads to all the symptoms that come along with the lactose intolerance. So that would be bloating, and bloating is different to bloat, as sometimes referred to by dog owners. Bloat being gastric dilation volvulus, that's that GVD I've spoke of in all the videos. So bloating, flatulence, cramps, sickness, that type of thing, and in large amounts, diarrhea. Now, these next figures that I give you are specifically related to the average male, and according to medicalnewstoday.com, links down below, the average male across all the races weighs around 197 pounds. So that's about 89 kilos. So to put that in sort of dog terms, your average male Rottie weighs between 50 and 60 kilos. Your average male Irish Wolfhound would weigh between 70 and 80 kilos. And your average male Great Dane would weigh again between 75 to maybe 90 kilos. So quite large dogs, comparable to humans. If you're a small dog owner, then obviously sort of adjust these figures accordingly. But what they say is, with humans, the intolerance is not an allergy, so there's a certain degree of tolerance. What that means is an individual that suffers from lactose intolerance can generally consume a small amount of lactose before it causes their gut problems. On average, this is between 12 and 15 grams of lactose. And some people won't be able to look at a pint of milk without getting stomach problems, and other people might be able to consume a little bit more. But averagely speaking, between 12 and 15 grams of lactose. To give you an idea of how much that is, that's about a cup of milk. Okay? If it can tolerate a cup of milk, more than that, and we start to have the symptoms that we spoke about earlier in the gut, the bloating, the gas, the cramps and that sicky feeling. Now again, in average males, if more than 45 grams of undigested lactose make it to the colon, then that will trigger diarrhea. Alright, so we've got some figures there that we can work with. Now what we can sort of infer from this is, as we are mammals and dogs are mammals, that there will be a degree of similarity. Now obviously weights and measures will differ, but there will be a degree of similarity there, a degree of tolerance, even if that is at the moment unknown. Now some good advice that's often given to people whose dogs have suffered from an upset stomach is to give that dog 3 or 4 tablespoonsful of natural bio yogurt. And the reason that's suggested is that will help replace the bacteria in the gut after the dog's had an upset stomach. It's brilliant advice, can't knock it, I do it myself and I often give the advice myself. So turns out that 3 or 4 tablespoonful of natural yogurt is 100 grams. Look, there we go. What that looks like is this. I fetched this from the shop earlier. Now this is a fruit based yogurt, so this is not what we recommend that we would give to your dog. It's purely here as a visual demonstration. Okay, this pot is 2 inches across by 2¼ inches deep by 2 inches wide. Okay, and the yogurt that's contained within doesn't sit all the way up to the top. Little lip on there. It's fair to say that the whole yogurt is contained within a 2 by 2 by 2 area. Right, now I like cheese as a high value reward, and I'm often asked, aren't you concerned with using cheese as a high value reward because it contains lactose? And my answer is no, not at all, and let me show you why. So this amount of natural yogurt is what we would suggest to give your dog for its breakfast and evening meal if it's had a stomach upset. Now, in 100 grams of natural yogurt, there are 4 grams of lactose. Okay, how I know this you'll see later on, but take it for now, there's 4 grams of lactose. Now, how much cheese do you think it will take to equal the amount of lactose that's contained within this pot of yogurt? This much. That's a block of cheese that's 2 inch by 2 inch by 2 inch. No. This much. That's 2 of the same blocks. No. How about this much? That's 500 grams of cheese, half a kilo. No. How much? Well, this much. 4 kilos of cheese is equal to the amount of lactose held within this pot. So now you can see why I'm not really fazed by the amount of lactose contained within the small quantity of cheese that I would use for my tidbits. Here's a chart that I got from research.net, links below, and if we look down there you can see a list of commonly found dairy products. Alongside each item you will find listed grams per 100 gram of lactose and grams per typical serving of lactose. If you look at our hard cheese, which is the vast majority of the cheeses that we make in England, like our cheddars, our Leicesters, things like that, Wensleydales, you can see that there's 0.1 gram of lactose in 100 grams of cheese. If we include the soft cheeses, the camemberts and stuff like that, we're looking at 0.3 grams of lactose per 100 grams of cheese. And when we compare this with our lactose-free milk, you can see they fare up quite nicely, quite comparable. And while we're talking about milk, if we look at the milk at the top there, the semi-skimmed and the full fat, we're looking at really high 4s, nearly 5 grams of lactose per 100 grams. In relation to that, dog's milk contains 3 grams of lactose per 100 grams. So what that means is even at its best, a puppy might not be able to process cow's milk. Right, so on to the tests. The first thing we need to do is make sure that your dog's not got a milk or dairy allergy. Now you would probably know this from puppyhood, but let's assume that it may have kicked in after the weaning stage. The first thing we need to do is test it out, tablespoonful of natural bio yogurt, and then we're going to observe the dog for 12 hours after that. And we're looking for any signs of an allergic reaction, so any puffiness to the face, any rash, any hives, any sickness or anything like that. Okay. After that we can then conduct our experiment knowing that our dog doesn't have an allergy. So what we're going to do is induce a small amount of lactose intolerance, and how we're going to do this is quite simple. What I'm going to use now, the times that I'm going to use are purely for conversational terms, so obviously feel free to change these times to suit your timetable. But ensure that you feed your dog last off in the evening, let's say around 9 o'clock. No more food after 9 o'clock, nothing other than water. Before it goes to bed, ensure that it empties, and again in the morning on its morning walk, make sure that it empties. Then after 9 o'clock the following morning, we're going to feed it a large portion of natural bio yogurt. So if we look at the table up there again, we can see that a suggested typical portion for a human comes in at just over 200 grams. So if you've got a large breed dog like we were talking earlier, like the Great Dane or the Rottie or something along those lines, then you could perhaps use that much. If you have got a smaller breed dog, then obviously adjust it to suit. But even if we're giving it at 200 grams, you can see that we're actually giving like almost a fifth of what's required in the colon to cause diarrhea. So we're not expecting any diarrhea to come from this. Once we've done that, we're going to then wait a couple of hours and observe the dog again, and we should be able to see any signs of lactose intolerance sort of showing. If we can't see them, we should be able to hear them, and if we can't hear them, we might be able to smell them. So what that means is we might see the dog's stomach bloating slightly, we might hear it passing wind, and if we don't hear it, there's a good chance that we might smell it passing wind. Now, I spoke earlier about how mismanaged symptoms may cause problems later on, and I did mention that this would be in the most severe of cases. So let's take the most severe case and run that through. Let's say your dog has quite a severe gassing from the yogurt that it's had, it's really well bloated. How do you deal with that? Because there's the potential there for your dog's stomach to twist and then get the GDV that we were speaking about earlier, or what is commonly referred to by dog owners as bloat. So we're going to control the dog's movement, we're going to make sure that it's not allowed just to run around, we're going to keep it, if possible, contained on its bed or in its crate. A couple of hours later, we're going to take it for a short controlled walk on the lead, perhaps around the garden. That will help pass any wind, and the same again, confine its movement, control its activity. Repeat the exercise again on the lead a couple of hours later, and the wind should pass, the gas should pass through naturally. If there is any problems, or if you think there might be a problem, just don't hesitate, take the dog straight to the vets. The quantities that we're using in this, again, should be small enough not to cause any real problems. Well, thanks very much for watching, folks. Hope you've liked what you've seen. If you have, please hit that like button. Please comment in the comment section below and hit that bell icon if you've not already done so you don't miss out on our laboratory test when we do it. Thanks again, folks. See you soon. Bye.